Hello everyone. Today, I'm excited to share with you the inspiring life story of a truly remarkable figure in the Catholic world, Pope Francis. He is not only the current leader of the Roman Catholic Church, but also a living example of compassion, humility, and tireless service to the poor and marginalized. The biography of Pope Francis is a story that touches the heart. Born Jorge Mario Bergoglio in Buenos Aires, Argentina, he walked a long and meaningful path, filled with challenges and blessings, before answering God's call to shepherd billions of faithful around the world. Throughout his life, Pope Francis has consistently chosen a simple and humble way of living. He never hesitates to step away from grandeur and walk among the everyday people, especially reaching out to those who are forgotten or overlooked, bringing them hope and joy. In every step he takes, every decision he makes, and every word he speaks, Pope Francis reminds us that faith is not just about prayers, it's about action. It's about offering mercy, standing up for justice, and sharing love in our daily lives. I invite you to join me as we explore more about his biography, his legacy, and the powerful example he continues to set for all of us. Pope Francis, Latin, Franciscus, Italian, Francesco, Spanish, Francisco, born December 17, 1936, passed away April 21, 2025, birth name. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was the 266th Pope of the Roman Catholic Church. He was the first Pope in history from Argentina. He was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, into a family of 5 siblings of Italian immigrant descent. From an early age, Bergoglio was fluent in both Spanish and Italian. After earning a master's degree in chemistry from the University of Buenos Aires, he began studying theology. On March 11, 1958, he joined the Society of Jesus, Jesuits, in Argentina. In 1969, he was ordained a priest and later served in various roles within the church. By 1998, he became Archbishop of the Archdiocese of Buenos Aires. In 2001, Pope John Paul II elevated him to the rank of cardinal. On March 13, 2013, Bergoglio was elected Pope during the papal conclave following the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI on February 28. His inauguration Mass, formally starting his role as pastor of the Universal Church, was held on March 19, 2013, coinciding with the feast of Saint Joseph. Being born in Argentina, he became the first pope from Latin America and the first non-European pope in more than 1,200 years, since Pope Gregory III. He was also the first Jesuit to ascend to the papacy. His papal name, Francis, was inspired by Saint Francis of Assisi, and it was the first time a pope had chosen this name. As both a religious leader and a public figure, Pope Francis was widely recognized for his humility, his deep concern for the poor, and his openness to dialogue with people of diverse backgrounds, ideologies, and beliefs. After becoming Pope, he demonstrated a simpler lifestyle, choosing to live in the Vatican's Domus Sancti Marthae, St. Martha's house, guest house instead of the traditional papal apartments. He also wore simpler vestments and declined the traditional ornate papal cloak after his election. During his first pastoral visit to a parish, Pope Francis stated, "This is God's most powerful message, love." Despite his relatively short time as leader of the Catholic Church, he was ranked 4th on Forbes magazine's list of the world's most powerful people for 2 consecutive years, 2013 and 2014. Additionally, Time magazine named him their Person of the Year in 2013. Early life. Jorge Mario Bergoglio was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, into a family of 5 children. His father, an Italian immigrant, worked as a railway laborer, having moved to Argentina in search of a better life. Growing up in a working-class household, Bergoglio quickly absorbed the values of hard work, humility, and deep-rooted faith. From a young age, Bergoglio showed a keen intellect and a strong passion for learning. After studying at the Villa Devoto Seminary, he decided to dedicate his life to God and officially joined the Society of Jesus, Jesuits, on March 11, 1958, marking the beginning of a lifelong journey of devotion and service. Bergoglio's education was broad and impressive. He earned a master's degree in chemistry from the University of Buenos Aires, a rare accomplishment for seminarians at that time. He further pursued a bachelor's degree in philosophy at Maximo San Jose University in San Miguel, graduating in 1963. His training there strengthened both his intellectual foundation and his humanistic outlook. Following his studies, Bergoglio took on teaching roles, sharing his knowledge of literature and psychology at two Jesuit schools, Immaculata in Santa Fe and Salvador in Buenos Aires. His time as an educator not only honed his patience and empathy but also deepened his understanding of human nature, lessons that would greatly shape his pastoral work later on. During these early years, Bergoglio also experienced the simple, often tough realities of working life. He worked as a bar bouncer, swept floors to earn a living, and conducted chemical experiments in a lab. These humble jobs gave him a lasting connection to the struggles of ordinary people and nurtured a spirit of compassion and realism that would define his future leadership. It was through these diverse experiences that Jorge Mario Bergoglio built a strong and resilient character, preparing him for the great mission that awaited him in the service of God and humanity. Before becoming Pope. Jesuit priest. Bergoglio studied at the seminary of Immaculata Concepcion in Villa Devoto, Buenos Aires. 3 years later, on March 11, 1958, he entered the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, as a novice. He officially professed his temporary vows on March 12, 1960. In 1967, Bergoglio completed his theological studies and was ordained a priest on December 13, 1969, by Archbishop José Ramón Castellano. Following his ordination, he served as a professor of philosophy and theology at the faculty of San Miguel, a Jesuit seminary in Buenos Aires. In 1973, Bergoglio completed his tertianship, final stage of Jesuit formation, in Alcalá de Henares, Spain, and professed his final vows as a Jesuit on April 22 of the same year. Later that year, he was elected Provincial Superior of the Jesuits in Argentina, a position he held from 1973 to 1979. In 1980, he became rector of the Seminary of San Miguel, the very institution where he had once trained as a seminarian. He served in that role until 1986 when he traveled to Germany to work on his doctoral dissertation. After returning to Argentina, Bergoglio served as a spiritual director and confessor for the Jesuit community in Córdoba. During his time in Germany, he encountered the famous painting Mary, Untier of Knots in Augsburg. Deeply moved, he brought a copy of the image back to Argentina, where devotion to Mary, Untier of Knots would later grow into a major symbol of Marian piety throughout the country. Bishop and Archbishop. Cardinal Bergoglio in 2008. On May 20, 1992, Bergoglio was appointed Auxiliary Bishop of the Archdiocese of Buenos Aires with the titular see of Auca. His episcopal consecration took place on June 27 of the same year, with Cardinal Antonio Corrachino, Archbishop of Buenos Aires, serving as principal consecrator. He chose as his episcopal motto Miserando ac elegendo, lowly but chosen, a phrase drawn from a homily by St. Bede reflecting on the Gospel of Matthew 9 verses 9 to 13. As Cardinal Corrachino's health declined, Bergoglio was appointed coadjutor Archbishop of Buenos Aires on June 3, 1997, granting him the right of succession. He officially succeeded as Archbishop on February 28, 1998. As Archbishop, Bergoglio focused on revitalizing the archdiocese. He established numerous new parishes, reorganized the administrative structures of the archdiocese, promoted pro-life initiatives, and created a reconciliation commission to assist divorced couples. One of his major pastoral initiatives was to strengthen the church's presence in the slums of Buenos Aires. Under his leadership, the number of priests assigned to work in these impoverished neighborhoods doubled. He also actively supported the pastoral care of Eastern Rite Catholics within Argentina. Bergoglio was elected president of the Argentine Episcopal Conference, serving 2 terms until 2011. His successor was Archbishop José María Arancito of the Archdiocese of Santa Fe, who was previously vice president and a cousin of the late Argentine President Raúl Alfonsín. In addition, Bergoglio was an active member of the Latin American Episcopal Council, (CELAM), and served as the ordinary for Eastern Catholics in Argentina. Cardinal. At a consistory held on February 21, 2001, Archbishop Bergoglio was elevated to the rank of cardinal by Pope John Paul II, receiving the titular church of San Roberto Bellarmino, St. Robert Bellarmine. As a cardinal, he was also appointed to several administrative roles within the Roman Curia, including membership in the Pontifical Commission for Latin America, the Pontifical Council for the Family, the Congregation for Divine Worship and the Discipline of the Sacraments, the Congregation for the Clergy, and the Congregation for Institutes of Consecrated Life and Societies of Apostolic Life. Following the death of Pope John Paul II, Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio was among the 117 cardinals under the age of 80 eligible to participate in the conclave to elect the new pope. During that conclave, Cardinal Joseph Aloysius Ratzinger was elected as Pope Benedict XVI. According to the newspaper La Stampa, Cardinal Bergoglio was considered one of the leading contenders, reportedly receiving the second highest number of votes behind Cardinal Ratzinger. It was even said that Bergoglio had humbly pleaded with his fellow cardinals not to vote for him. However, under the Apostolic Constitution Universi Dominici Gregis, paragraph 44, section 2, approved by Pope John Paul II on February 22, 1996, revealing conclave proceedings can incur automatic excommunication, as outlined in canon law, canon 1399, so any reports about the conclave remain speculative. Prior to the conclave, Cardinal Bergoglio attended the funeral of Pope John Paul II and served in a caretaker role within the College of Cardinals, helping oversee the governance of the Holy See and the Catholic Church during the sede vacante, the period between popes. Cardinal Bergoglio became well known for his personal humility, his conservative approach to doctrine, and his strong advocacy for social justice. He lived a simple lifestyle, choosing a modest apartment instead of the luxurious archbishop's residence. He also rejected the use of a personal chauffeur-driven car, preferring to travel around Buenos Aires by public transportation. Pope. The 2013 Papal Conclave. The 2013 Papal Conclave was convened following the resignation of Pope Benedict XVI on February 28, 2013. A total of 115 cardinal electors began the conclave on the afternoon of March 12. At 7:06 p.m. Rome time on March 13, 2013, white smoke rose from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel, signaling to the world that a new pope had been elected. Shortly after, the bells of St. Peter's Basilica rang out in celebration. The conclave elected Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio, Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Argentina, as the new pope. He chose the papal name Francis. The resignation of Pope Benedict XVI. On February 11, 2013, Pope Benedict XVI, also known as Benedict XVI, announced his intention to resign from the position of Bishop of Rome and leader of the Catholic Church, effective at 8 p.m. on February 28, 2013, officially marking the beginning of a sede vacante, period of vacancy. Pope Benedict XVI became the first pope to resign in nearly 6 centuries. The last was Pope Gregory XII in 1415. In his resignation statement, Pope Benedict XVI declared, "I am well aware that this ministry, due to its essential spiritual nature, must be carried out not only by words and deeds but also through prayer and suffering. However, in today's world, subject to so many rapid changes and shaken by questions of deep relevance for the life of faith, in order to govern the bark of St. Peter and proclaim the gospel, both strength of mind and body are necessary, strength which, in the last few months, has deteriorated in me to the extent that I have had to recognize my incapacity to adequately fulfill the ministry entrusted to me. For this reason, and with full awareness of the seriousness of this act, I freely declare my resignation from the ministry of Bishop of Rome, successor of St. Peter, entrusted to me by the cardinals on April 19, 2005. Upon his resignation at 8 p.m. on February 28, 2013, all high-ranking officials in the Vatican Curia automatically lost their positions, though it did not mean they could simply step away from their responsibilities. Public reactions. In a statement to the 80 million members of the Anglican Communion, Archbishop Justin Welby of Canterbury, the spiritual leader of the Anglican Church, expressed full sympathy with Pope Benedict's decision, describing it as graceful, courageous, and far-sighted. A spokesperson for the German Chancellor stated that the German government held the highest respect for the service Pope Benedict XVI had rendered to the Catholic Church. According to reports by the BBC, many visitors at the Vatican initially could not believe the news and wondered if the Pope was seriously ill. However, Vatican spokesman Father Federico Lombardi repeatedly clarified that Pope Benedict XVI was not suffering from any illness, but rather was experiencing a natural decline in strength, typical for someone aged 85. Italy's La Stampa newspaper quoted the Italian Prime Minister as saying he was truly shocked by the unexpected news. Meanwhile, Der Spiegel reported that Monsignor George Ratzinger, the Pope's brother, had known about his plans to resign for several months. Israel's chief rabbi, Yonah Metzger, also commented, saying that under Pope Benedict XVI's leadership, Israel and the Vatican had enjoyed their best relations in history. The process. Cardinal electors. At the time, although there were 209 living cardinals in the Catholic Church, only 117 of them were eligible to participate in the 2013 papal conclave. According to the rules, any cardinal who had reached the age of 80 before the start of the papal vacancy was no longer permitted to take part in the conclave. This regulation was first established by Pope Paul VI in 1970 and later modified by Pope John Paul II in 1996. Although, in principle, the cardinals are free to elect any baptized Catholic male as pope, since 1389, they have consistently chosen a member of the College of Cardinals. For the 2013 conclave, several media outlets speculated that the following cardinals were among the top contenders to succeed Pope Benedict XVI: Christoph Scomborn of Austria, Luis Antonio Tagle of the Philippines, Peter Turkson of Ghana, Mark Aulid of Canada, and Angelo Scola of Italy. Other notable figures included Leonardo Sandri of Argentina and Timothy Michael Dolan of the United States. In 1996, Pope John Paul II modified the rules governing papal elections, allowing for the possibility of a simple majority vote if a conclave became prolonged and deadlocked. Previously, the voting was required to continue until a candidate received a two-thirds majority plus one vote. In the most recent conclave before 2013, Cardinal Ratzinger had quickly secured a simple majority and was subsequently elected pope. However, shortly after his election, Pope Benedict XVI restored the traditional requirement, mandating a two-thirds majority for the election of a pope. As a result, his successor would need broad consensus support rather than being the choice of a particular faction. Timing and procedures. According to the Apostolic Constitution Universi Dominici Gregis, issued by Pope John Paul II in 1996, the conclave must begin no sooner than 15 days and no later than 20 days after the papal seat becomes vacant. Vatican officials emphasized the importance of electing a new pope before Holy Week, which in 2013 began on March 24 with Palm Sunday, given Easter's central significance to the Church. To expedite the process, in one of his final acts as Pope, Benedict XVI issued a motu proprio titled Normas Non Nullas, signed on February 22, allowing the cardinals to move the start date of the conclave forward if all cardinal electors were already present in Rome. On March 8, the College of Cardinals agreed to begin the conclave on March 12, 2013. The first round of voting, held on March 12, did not produce a result. However, on March 13, after the fifth ballot overall, the cardinals elected a new pope, Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio of Argentina, Archbishop of Buenos Aires. He chose the papal name Francis. Voting. Day 1. Day 2. Logistics. The Sistine Chapel, where the cardinals would be sequestered during the conclave. On March 8, 2013, Vatican spokesman Father Federico Lombardi announced that special signal jamming devices would be deployed around both the Sistine Chapel and the Domus Sancti Marthae, St. Martha's house, where the cardinals would stay isolated throughout the conclave. Vehicles equipped with mobile jammers were also assigned to follow the vans transporting the cardinals between the Domus and the Sistine Chapel. The Vatican press office announced that a special Mass would be celebrated on the morning of March 12, and the first round of voting would take place that afternoon. 2 stoves had been installed to burn the ballots after the votes were counted. If no pope was elected, chemicals would be added to produce black smoke from the chapel's chimney. If a pope was elected, different chemicals would be used to produce white smoke, signaling to the public outside that a new pope had been chosen. All cardinal electors, along with all personnel assisting in the conclave, including priests hearing confessions and the nuns serving meals at the Domus Sancti Marthi, were required to swear an oath of absolute secrecy regarding the election. They were forbidden to disclose anything about the proceedings, the voting, or any related activities either during or after the conclave, unless explicitly authorized by the new pope. Any violation of this secrecy would result in automatic excommunication. Bergoglio was elected pope on March 13, 2013, during the second day of the 2013 conclave, and he chose the papal name Francis. Explaining this choice, Vatican Deputy Spokesman Thomas Rosica stated that the new pope selected the name Francis in reference to Saint Francis of Assisi, known for his life of poverty and simplicity, as Pope Francis himself sought to emulate that model. Initially, some people mistakenly believed that, since Cardinal Bergoglio was a Jesuit, he had chosen the name Francis after Saint Francis Xavier, the famous Jesuit missionary. However, Pope Francis later clarified, "During the election, I was sitting next to Cardinal Claudio Hums, the former Archbishop of Sao Paulo and a dear friend of mine. When the situation became dangerous, he comforted me, saying, 'Don't worry.' And when the votes reached 2/3 and the applause signaled that a pope had been elected, he hugged me and whispered, 'Don't forget the poor.' Those words struck me deeply, the poor, the poor. Immediately, I thought of Saint Francis of Assisi." Cardinal Timothy Dolan, who was present during the conclave, also confirmed that immediately after his election, Bergoglio said, "I will be called Francis, in honor of Saint Francis of Assisi." The Vatican confirmed that the official name of the new pope would simply be Francis, not Francis I. A Vatican spokesperson explained that he would only be referred to as Francis I if and when a future pope chose the name Francis as well. Pope Francis is fluent in Spanish, his native language, Latin, Italian, and German. He also has conversational abilities in English, French, and Portuguese, and knows some Piedmontese dialect. The first words he spoke to the public after his election, during his Urbi et Orbi blessing, were, "Dear brothers and sisters, good evening. You know that the duty of the conclave was to elect a bishop of Rome. It seems that my brother cardinals went to the ends of the earth to find him, but here we are. I thank you for the warm welcome you have given me as part of the diocesan community of Rome. First of all, I would like to offer a prayer for our emeritus Pope, Benedict XVI. Let us pray together for him, that the Lord may bless him and that Our Lady may protect him. Health. Pope Francis now has only one lung left because one of his lungs was removed after he became a priest shortly. The reason for this, as he told his biographer, was because he had pneumonia and 3 tumors in his lungs. The disease had seriously threatened his life for 3 days and the doctors had decided to remove one lung, 54, but it seems the Pope has not been affected much by the lack of a lung and he has lived a healthy life after the event. 55. Doctors are only worried that he may suffer from respiratory distress if he suffers from some kind of respiratory infection in the future. Style of mind. You are an ordinary Pope. You don't show off your power. The differences between him and his predecessor Pope Benedict XVI are, he chose silver-plated rings over gold rings, iron cross necklaces over gold, black pants over white, black socks over white shoes, and he chose black shoes over the Pope's signature red shoes, 56. Pass away. On the morning of April 21, 2025, the Vatican announced that Pope Francis died at 7:35 a.m. local time. Lord, we entrust Pope Francis into your loving embrace. Grant him eternal rest in your light and peace. We give thanks for his life of service and the love he sowed in our world. Amen.